seniors never eat these 4 nuts and 4 you should eat daily. You've been told nuts are healthy, a perfect snack full of good fats and protein. But what no one warned you is that after 50, some nuts quietly work against your aging body, accelerating inflammation, disrupting digestion, and even harming your brain without a single symptom you'd recognize. And right now, you might be eating 1 or more of the 4 most dangerous nuts for seniors, thinking you're helping yourself, when in truth, you're feeding the slow decay of energy clarity and vitality. And the first one on that list is cashews. Because while they're often marketed as heart-healthy, the truth is they're dangerously high in omega-6 fatty acids, and when your body's balance between omega-3 and omega-6 shifts too far, which happens easily in aging adults, it triggers chronic silent inflammation, which doesn't scream. It whispers, showing up as aching joints, unpredictable digestion, brain fog that sneaks up on you mid-conversation, and even mood shifts that feel like depression or apathy. And the worst part is that roasted or flavored cashews are often cooked in low-quality oils, further fueling oxidative stress in older cells, already working overtime to repair and protect themselves. And then there's peanuts, which aren't even true nuts, but legumes, and carry a double danger. One, they're high in phytic acid, which blocks your body's ability to absorb critical minerals like magnesium, zinc, and iron, all nutrients seniors desperately need to support bone strength, memory, and energy. And 2, peanuts are especially prone to harboring aflatoxins, toxic mold, byproducts that quietly accumulate in stored nuts, and when consumed regularly, have been linked to liver stress, weakened immunity, and even increased cancer risk, all while you're popping them by the handful, thinking they're doing you good. And then there's macadamia nuts, which feel indulgent and luxurious, but hide a problem for seniors with even slightly sluggish gallbladders or livers. They're extremely high in fat and remarkably low in fiber, meaning they can slow down your digestion, cause gas bloating, or fat malabsorption, which you might write off as random discomfort, but in truth is your body signaling overload. And if you're on medications that already strain liver function, these nuts become a hidden stressor that saps your strength in ways no doctor may trace. And then comes the most surprising of all, Brazil nuts, often praised for their selenium content. But that's precisely what makes them dangerous, because just 2 Brazil nuts can exceed your daily selenium needs, and regular overconsumption, especially if you snack mindlessly, can lead to selenium toxicity, which causes hair thinning, brittle nails, fatigue, and ironically, memory loss, all while you think you're doing something good for your thyroid or immune system. And when these nuts stack up in your diet, whether in mixed nut jars, snack bars, or healthy nut butters, they silently sabotage the organs that keep you steady as you age. But here's the shift. Not all nuts are your enemy. In fact, 4 specific nuts are among the most powerful allies for seniors if you choose them wisely, prepare them correctly, and know what they're doing inside your body. They don't just nourish you. They help reverse the damage done by stress time and poor digestion. And the first of these is walnuts, because they contain a uniquely high amount of plant-based omega-3s, specifically alpha-linolenic acid, which your body uses to fight inflammation at a cellular level, reduce brain shrinkage, and protect the synapses that control memory clarity and reaction time. And if you've felt slower lately, not just in movement, but in thought, walnuts can be your mental fuel, but only if they're raw or lightly toasted, because over-roasted walnuts lose their omega-3 potency and become acidic, turning something healing into something neutral or even inflammatory. And then there's almonds, but not just any almonds, soaked and peeled almonds, because the outer skin contains tannins and lectins that irritate the gut lining. But once removed, you get access to one of the cleanest sources of vitamin E, magnesium, and plant protein your aging body can absorb, And for seniors struggling with blood sugar, cholesterol, or brittle nails, peeled almonds offer stability without the insulin spike or digestive burden of other snacks, and they travel well, store well, and support healthy weight without feeding the belly fat that resists every diet. And then come pistachios, often ignored or mistaken for just a salty treat, but secretly loaded with compounds like lutein and zeaxanthin, which support eye health, reduce macular degeneration, and enhance visual clarity. Crucial as you age, but even more surprising. Pistachios contain the highest level of melatonin of any nut, making them a natural, gentle way to improve sleep without pills. And if your sleep has been fragmented, restless, or leaves you tired even after 8 hours, pistachios might be your quiet solution. But only if they're unsalted and preferably dry roasted, without added oils. And finally, there are hazelnuts, a dark horse in the nut world, often overlooked, but powerful in protecting the heart and the brain thanks to their unique mix of folate, vitamin B6, and antioxidant compounds that clean up free radicals before they can damage aging tissue. And for seniors experiencing forgetfulness, fatigue, or heart palpitations, hazelnuts offer a safe, deeply nourishing fat that feeds energy production without the crash, the mold risk, or the inflammatory burden of more common snack nuts. And when you eat these 4 good nuts in rotation, in moderation, and with purpose, they don't just fuel you, they fortify you. And that's what you need now. Not just food that fills you, but food that protects you, that restores what the years and the stress and the silent inflammation have been stealing one bite at a time. Because once you see how something as small as a nut can either fuel inflammation or reverse it, can either support memory or sabotage, it can either soothe your joints or trigger pain, you stop eating mindlessly and start eating medicinally, especially when you realize that the damage caused by the wrong nuts doesn't arrive in dramatic ways, but through slow, quiet erosion, the kind you mistake for just getting older, until one day you forget a name you used to recall instantly, or you need more naps than you used to, or your stomach starts reacting to meals that once felt safe. And what you may not know is that those symptoms can be rooted in trace-level toxins, heavy metals, mycotoxins, or inflammatory compounds that concentrate inside your favorite trail mix, and you never questioned it. Because nuts have a health halo, but not all halos are honest, especially not when they sit on foods like peanuts, which you now know are one of the most mold-prone foods in the American diet. And that mold doesn't just pass through your system. It accumulates, disrupts the gut lining, confuses your immune system, and eventually triggers reactions that doctors call non-specific, which means they don't know what's wrong, only that something is, and it gets dismissed as aging, but your body knows better, and you can't afford to ignore that internal knowing anymore. Especially when the fix is simple shift. What you eat and everything else begins to shift with it. Because your digestion controls your energy, your inflammation controls your mood, your blood sugar controls your memory, and every nut you put in your mouth is either helping those systems stay balanced or dragging them down in ways that don't show up on a label. And that's why walnuts, with their anti-inflammatory omega-3 profile, are your brain's best friend after 50 so much, so that long-term walnut consumption has been linked in multiple studies to reduced brain shrinkage in aging adults. And yet most people still choose almonds or peanuts out of habit, not realizing that walnuts are one of the only plant-based foods that feed your mind the way fatty fish once did. And if you're not eating fish, often walnuts are essential. But here's the caveat: they go rancid faster than other nuts. And if your walnuts taste bitter, they've already oxidized, and oxidized fats don't heal. They harm, becoming pro-inflammatory instead of anti-inflammatory. So freshness matters and storage matters, and what you eat in private affects what you feel in public. So don't let healthy become harmful just because you didn't know what to look for. And the same goes for almonds, because raw almonds that haven't been soaked are hard to digest and can interfere with nutrient absorption. especially in seniors whose stomach acid has naturally declined and who now rely on food being easy to process. Not just nutrient-dense and soaking almonds for 6 to 8 hours before eating or buying. Sprouted ones removes that barrier, turning a burdensome nut into one of the most supportive foods you can put in your body. Especially if you're trying to stabilize your mood, your memory, or your bones, and when you combine that with the sleep-enhancing power of pistachios, which contain natural melatonin, magnesium, and vitamin B6, all needed for restful sleep and neurotransmitter production. You create a cascade effect. Better sleep leads to clearer mornings lead to sharper thinking. Sharper thinking leads to better choices, and it all starts with the handful of nuts you thought didn't matter. But everything matters now. After 50, there's no time to eat blindly. Every snack is a strategy. Every habit is a blueprint. And if you've ever felt like your health is slipping, but you can't quite trace why, look closer at your daily food decisions, because the damage doesn't come from the obvious stuff anymore. It comes from what you trusted, without question, the store-bought nut mix with roasted peanuts and sweetened cashews, the protein bar filled with peanut flour and cheap oils, the Brazil nut snack that seemed smart but gave you brittle nails and fatigue you couldn't explain, and now that you know, you can stop the spiral and reverse the story, one simple choice at a time. And the more you understand how these so-called healthy snacks work on an aging body, the more you begin to notice how small choices lead to big consequences, not all at once, but drip by drip, day by day, until your joints whisper before you get out of bed. Your stomach feels unsettled after every meal, and your thoughts don't arrive as clearly as they used to. And it's not just because you're older. It's because your body is overloaded with signals it can no longer process without help. And every peanut, every cashew, every over-roasted, oil-drenched nut snack you've eaten without thinking may have been feeding the fire rather than putting it out. And that fire, chronic inflammation, is now understood to be the root of nearly every disease that shortens life after 60, arthritis, Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, and even depression. And here's where it gets more alarming. Most of these nuts aren't eaten alone. They're consumed in ultra-processed forms, salted with inflammatory table salt, roasted in rancid oils coated in sweeteners that spike insulin, and all of that becomes a hidden storm inside your body, and by the time you feel it, it's already done damage, but you still have time to undo it. Because your body is not broken, it's responsive, and the moment you shift what you feed it, it starts shifting how it works. And this is where the healing nuts come in. Not as magic bullets, but as messengers, reminding your body how to function, like it once did. Because when you eat hazelnuts, for example, you're not just getting healthy fat. You're giving your heart and brain a source of folate and vitamin E that actively neutralizes free radicals, lowers LDL cholesterol, and supports neurotransmitter balance. And you need that more than ever now. Because as we age, oxidative stress doesn't just make us tired. It speeds up everything we fear: memory loss, stiffness, fatigue, emotional flatness, and something as simple as rotating hazelnuts into your diet 3 times a week can tilt the balance back toward restoration. Especially when paired with almonds that have been soaked to unlock their magnesium and allow for better absorption of calcium, both critical for keeping your bones strong and your nervous system stable. Especially when hormonal changes, medication use, or poor sleep are already making you feel like your body isn't yours anymore. And then there's the surprising effect of pistachios, which support not just sleep, but blood vessel flexibility, meaning better blood flow to the brain, to the skin, to the extremities. And if you've been feeling colder, slower, or foggier, it's not random. It could be circulation, and circulation starts with what you eat, not what you medicate. And don't forget walnuts, because these aren't just brain-shaped. By coincidence, they feed the brain with polyphenols and healthy fats that reduce amyloid buildup, the plaques associated with cognitive decline, and seniors who regularly eat walnuts show slower rates of mental aging in clinical studies. Not because of a miracle, but because they're eating in a way that supports the body's original design. And the truth is, your body hasn't forgotten how to heal, how to be clear, how to be strong. It's just been waiting for the right fuel, and the more you give it, the more it remembers. And that remembering shows up fast, in better sleep, more stable energy, less joint pain, clearer thoughts, and most importantly, in the return of something you forgot. You could still feel after 60 hope, because hope after 60 isn't about some grand transformation. It's about the quiet return of agency, the sense that your choices still matter, that your body is still listening, still responding, still rebuilding every time you make a shift that favors nourishment over habit, precision over convenience, attention over assumption, and what's more personal than food. What goes into your body becomes your cells, your memory, your movement, your mood. And yet most people your age are still being fed the lie that aging is a decline. They can't influence, that symptoms are just destiny, that snacks are harmless, that small things don't count, but you know better now, because if a Brazil nut can overload your selenium, if a peanut can carry mold that messes with your gut, if a cashew can silently fan the flames of inflammation, then the reverse is also true. A walnut can protect your mind. An almond can stabilize your nerves. A pistachio can support your sleep. A hazelnut can nourish your heart. And once you know that you're not eating anymore, you're intervening. You're building the architecture of your next decade. And the difference between feeling 10 years older and 10 years stronger may come down to what's hiding in your pantry right now. So go there. Look not just at the labels, but at your habits. Ask, is this food helping me remember who I want to be, or making it easier to forget? Because forgetfulness isn't just about names and faces. It's about forgetting your own power, your ability to influence how you feel, how you age, how you show up in the world. And maybe that's the greatest lie of all, that what you eat doesn't matter after a certain age, but it does. Every bite is a vote for energy or exhaustion, for clarity or confusion, for resilience or resignation. So start voting wisely. Start honoring what your body is still capable of. And if it feels overwhelming, just begin here. Clear out the 4 dangerous nuts, peanuts, cashews, macadamias, Brazil nuts, and replace them with 4 that heal: walnuts, almonds, pistachios, hazelnuts. Keep them fresh, rotate them, soak them when needed. Eat them not as filler, but as fuel. Because you're not fueling the old version of you. You're fueling the next one, the wiser, sharper, more awake you, who refuses to surrender. Just because the world forgot to tell you, you still have choices. And now that you've heard this, now that you know, the only question left is, will you keep eating like it doesn't matter? Or will you finally eat like your life depends on it? Because in so many small, invisible ways, it does.